Right, here we are. I think this is the last video I can make on Ray Comfort and Kirk Cameron's The Way of the Master Episode 7 video on the Atheists. It's been a long journey that I started about 10 months ago, but it's finally time to put this to bed. If you haven't watched the rest, there's a playlist in the description. Anyway, let's see that next challenger.
Well, we have science that proves that we didn't need that sort of thing to create the earth. We didn't need a being to come down and touch his finger on the earth.
Okay, so Weekend has non-believer, I think it's number 3, and so far, yep, we don't need God TM to have created the earth to exist in our model. Fairly basic stuff, and I'm totally sure that Ray or Kirk or Rurk, the Ray Kirk stand-in, or whoever this is, I'm gonna keep saying Rurk though, will not actually pay attention to or respond to anything she says.
We have theories, scientific theories, that prove that the earth came together because of this big cosmos of chemicals and different environments coming together and creating this place. And over time, it got to the state that it's in now.
I hear just what you're saying, and I used to think that way for so long. And
like, okay, yeah, that's not a super great in-depth explanation, but it's also totally not wrong, and a fine layman's explanation. Basically, we can explain how the universe came to be, and at no point is it necessary to invoke a supernatural being to explain pretty much anything. Also, I've cut out just a little bit of a more rambly parts, as otherwise we would be here forever. No offense to the lass, but we have a lot to cover today.
But like, just my common sense.
Ah, you screwed it up already. Common sense, that's one of those things that honestly people should stop saying. Because first off, if you mean common sense like don't stick a fork in a toaster or don't eat those little packets of silica you found in your new box of random electronics. And yeah, people still do those things, and warning labels have to tell them not to, because that kind of common sense just isn't that common apparently. But the other kind of common sense says this thing is intuitive, therefore it must be correct. But just because something is easy to understand doesn't mean it's right. You hear that, flat earthers?
Really does have to say, wait a minute, that building is pretty well designed.
Oh, damn it, here we go again with Ray and Kirk's rubbish. We know things designed by humans were designed by humans, therefore God argument. And I'm just going to ignore it, because you say that building is well designed. Well, is it really? How do you know? Have you been inside? Maybe that building has a bunch of redundant features or is difficult to navigate. The outside of a thing is not a good representation of its internal design, when it could be held together with tissue paper and spit for all you know.
But when I look at you, or I look at the eyeball of my little baby.
You want to use people as representations of good design? There's a classic engineering meme. Whoever designed the human body should be fired, probably into the sun, because so much of the body is either redundant or doesn't make sense. Almost like it was slowly iterated upon over time by some sort of process, almost as if it evolved or something like that, instead of being designed wholesale all at once. Strange that, eh?
And I say, look at how well and beautifully designed a human being is.
LOL.
I mean, you can walk, you can talk, you can think, you can come up with these answers all on the fly.
First off, she can, sure, but can you? I bet if you try to do more than one of those things at the same time, you'll just blue screen. And second off, lots of critters can walk, talk, think, and come up with solutions to problems on the fly. With all these examples out in nature, we have seen being able to do that. Not once have we seen one pop into existence via a god. We have, however, been able to witness evolution firsthand via certain small creatures. So we have examples of a thing we have seen, and we have no examples of a thing we haven't. Which do I believe to be more accurately reflective of reality? Humdy, humdy, hum.
The most complicated computers in the world can't do what your eyes can do in 2 seconds would take it hours to do.
Okay, to be fair to Sin or Rourke, this video was made in the caveman times of 2002, when MP3s were chiselled onto stone tablets and played by hitting them with gramophones or something like that. But even back then, the general public understood the concept of you buy a computer today and in 6 months you'll be out of date, as the technology was always getting better. You know what other kind of tech gets better? Cameras. Now, comparing a machine camera to an organic thing like an eye is just stupid anyway, because they just don't work the same way. But even back then, cameras could pick up infrared. Human eyes cannot do that. Mostly because, as I said, they're not the same thing. And I don't know what you mean by it would take your eyes 2 seconds. That would take hours for a cuckoo neuter to do. But nowadays, that kind of insane resolution you can get out of digital cameras combined with big old zoom lenses, which also, by the way, existed back then, means that your eyes are just outperformed thoroughly by even modest cameras. And again, they are just going to be better. Also, if you mean the captured footage versus memories, well, let's not even, because human recollection is broken and has been since the day one update. Really should fix that ASAP, Blizz.
I believe everything on this earth was accidental or created by man. So...
Oh, yeah, and so much technology was just an accident to begin with as well. Did you know that whiskey was discovered when someone mixed happiness with Flavortown? The more you know.
Well, yeah, I know. I think that you were made with a purpose and for an important reason, and that...
Dude, you're here to save, not to flirt. I'm serious, he did that earlier, and I'm convinced he's hitting on her. Hell, he hasn't even done any of the rubbish points to try and convince her of whatever. Probably because he knows he won't get anywhere with them, and thus her. Also, didn't he mention that he had a baby, and so as a good Christiana Bubbles, must have a wifey type person with him as well? She better be dead, or you're going to be in big trouble, mister. Never thought I would say that sentence. Again.
We're having this conversation not just by accident, and that's what I personally think.
Yeah, you asked for her to come over, and if she'd be willing to talk to you. That's how conversations happen. It'd be weird if you did have a conversation by accident, unless you were at a party with that guy. You know the one. The guy who has some obscure and super boring hobby that just feels the need to share it with absolutely goddamn everyone. Yes, I'm sure your collection of 18th century toilet roll holders is fascinating, but I am far too busy staring at this wall, thank you.
And you're a really nice girl, and I appreciate you talking with us.
Stop flipping flirting! Oh my god, it's so cringy. And you know what? I think that actually might be Kirk, and I know for a fact that he's married, and certainly was then, and she ain't dead. So you need to cut that crap out. Didn't you know that it's literally adultery? Because Jesus doesn't know what adultery is, apparently.
Jesus said whoever looks at a woman and lusts after her has committed adultery already with her in his heart.
See? You're going to hell, Kirk. And just to be clear, no one's happy about that. We don't want you down here. You're not cool.
And, oh man, my heart breaks because I want you to know that there's a God, and I want you to know that he sent Christ to die for you. And the fact that you want to live...
You don't know that. She might be suffering from crippling depression like the rest of us. Although depression was invented in 2010 by Tumblr, according to boomers, so who the hell knows?
I don't want to die either, and the Bible says that Jesus Christ has abolished and destroyed death and brought life and immortality to light through the gospel.
Well, if the Bible says it, it must be true. And you lot definitely shouldn't all go down into the comments now and point out your favourite blatant falsehoods and contradictions that are easily found in that book. Mostly so I don't have to make this video last literally 2 goddamn days.
And so I so want you to just...
I want you to just touch it a bit. My wife hasn't in years, baby. Get a hold of yourself, man. God damn it, Bible be making Kirk here a thirsty boy.
try to be honest and open with God and just surrender your life to Him and see what happens.
Yeah, just be open and honest. That's all we want. Open and honest. And surrender your life to Him and be honest and open. That's all. Just see what happens. Yeah, no, if you have to believe something already in order to be able to see the truth of it, well, I got some bad news for you. It's probably not true. And seriously, that surrender your life to Him thing is the creepiest culty bullshit I have ever heard in my life. And if anyone tries to sell you on an idea and says something even close to that, you get away from them as fast as you can.
I will definitely think about
Anyway,
this conversation.
think about it.
She's not going to think about it. And thank God Almighty for that, eh? Anyway, back to the definite Kirkmeister himself and not the fake one, or I don't know.
Sometimes a professing atheist seems to be so stubborn they just don't want to believe in God.
No, for gosh. Have you learned nothing? Just because you have the least convincing arguments for everything ever that aren't helped by the fact that, well, God doesn't the real, but your arguments are terrible and people going, yeah, but I just don't believe that. It's not an active refusal. It's like you're thinking, but I believe, so why won't you just believe the exact way that I do? Well, that's not how people work, Kirk. Unfortunately for you, people have their own thoughts and feelings and aren't just going to believe whatever you tell them for no good reason. Hell, you don't even argue their points. They will argue yours, but you only ever argue your own, and they already don't buy that crap, so it's not going to work in the end.
They want absolute proof.
They want absolute proof. Yeah, the bastards with their unreasonable demands like proof. What a bunch of assholes, yeah?
Well, Mr. or Mrs. Atheist, there is absolute proof.
Oh, wow, really? You think you would have used it before now instead of dancing around with incoherent gibberish and arguments so bad they probably made more people atheist than they did vice versa. Okay, awesome. Here's hoping it isn't something stupid like because Bible.
God says that He will show Himself to you personally if you'll do one thing. Listen to what Jesus said in the Bible.
Oh, no, bad Kirk. The Bible is not proof of anything other than the Bible existing. Stop using it for proof of things, because no one is going to believe you, you frilly-haired goon.
He that has my commandments and keeps them, he it is that loves me, and he that loves me shall be loved by my Father.
That sounds like a threat, if I'm completely honest. Like a dad wearing a t-shirt around his daughter's new boyfriend that says, everything you do to my daughter, I will do to you. Now, that sounds like a good threat, but you might just end up having to give him lots of tender cuddles and forehead kisses if it turns out he's actually kind of a good lad, which isn't the end of the world to be fair, but still might not be exactly what you were expecting.
And I will love him and will manifest myself to him.
So God is invisible till you love him, but then how can you love something that you don't believe in or see? It's a catch-22 really, and a good old get-out-of-jail-free card to boot. What? You did everything we said, but God didn't reveal himself to you? Well, you must not have been doing it properly. Try harder. Do you not think that that kind of thinking might, say, trick someone into believing that they had an experience when they really didn't?
So here Jesus is saying he will manifest or reveal himself to you if you will obey his commandments. Now, does that mean Jesus will appear before your eyes or you'll hear his voice?
Well, I gotta guess yes, because really what the hell else is there? I mean, you did say it was absolute proof. So you have to assume he will sign your boobs as well, maybe give you a business card and take a selfie with you for you to share on current day relevant social media platform, #chillinwithjesus.
No.
Oh, well, that's a disappointment. Well, I say disappointment. It was exactly what I expected from you, but, you know, it would be nice if it wasn't so painfully obvious that that's what you were going to say. What if one of these days you had actual, tangible evidence? Like, even if it was fake, it'd be nice. It'd be something.
Jesus means that he will demonstrate his reality and his power by changing your heart if you will obey the gospel. Now, what does that mean? It means to stop thinking you know everything there is to know and admit that you could be wrong about God.
What? No, it doesn't. Admitting that you don't know everything and then suddenly accepting Jeebus and God is a complete non sequitur. I already admit that there's a possibility of a God, if incredibly small, like your chances with that girl, although it's certainly not your God for some fairly self-evident reasons if you've ever read the Bible. But let's say we choose to go, okay, Mr. Way of the Yah variety could be real, then I'm going to have to say that just about every single God. And then we're just going to be at square one again, with me just as unlikely to suddenly accept your fella as the one true wassit, aren't I?
Listen to your conscience and say, God, if you're there, I know I've sinned against you.
No, because that would require me to believe. I'm going to have to sit there and do exactly the same thing for countless gods. Believe in them all, including somehow the ones I've never heard of, because from my perspective, they are all about as likely. And honestly, I got better crap to do with my time. I hear that 18th century toilet roll holder collecting is extremely fulfilling pastime.
Please forgive me. Change my heart. Make me the person that you want me to be. And this day I commit to trust and obey Jesus Christ, who died to save me.
It really is like you cannot even fathom that I actually don't think the same thing as you. That I couldn't possibly, truly not believe. There's this classic super annoying thing of, well, you're just mad at God. No, Matriarch Porker, I am mad at you for being so arrogant to think that no one could possibly understand the world differently from you. It's so aggravating for you to act like you're the one who has it all figured out, and then when I ask you to prove it, you just wave a book in my face.
If you'll do that, God promises to show himself to you. Now, either that's true or it isn't. So that's the challenge. What are you going to do?
The challenge is to believe in God so that you can believe in God, 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 so that you can believe in God. You know, I'm starting to think that this might be just a little bit circular, don't you?
So in conclusion, we've been talking about how to share your faith with an atheist.
And the conclusion is don't. At least not how they tell you to do it, because it literally doesn't work. And they showed you it not working with 3 separate people and then acted like they'd actually achieved anything. The delusion on display is absolutely staggering.
And you do it the same way you'd share your faith with anyone else. Remember, the atheist is your friend, not your enemy. Don't argue with him. Simply help him to see.
Okay, well, I agree to the not enemies part, and I like the sentiment. You're going to have to do better than
that he's really an agnostic, a person who doesn't know if there's a God, and then help him.
Because A, they are certainly already going to know they're an agnostic, or they've thought about it and come to the conclusion that they actively do not believe that God exists. And B, your help, at its most basic level, believe what I believe. And that's it. I think the only person that's going to help is themselves, their mates, and you.
By showing him that in his heart, he knows that he's done wrong, that he needs God's forgiveness, and you do that by swinging to the conscience with the 10 Commandments.
Well, of course, that list that's about 40% better prove you love God, 50% try not to be a terrible person, and don't murder. Impressive! Except that they won't have any reason to care about your God, will already quite likely not be that much of a rubbish person and probably haven't killed anyone. So they aren't exactly going to buy what you're saying. Especially when it's, hey, my arbitrary standards mean that you're a bad person. We already saw that none of that worked.
Apologetics are like bait. Now, if you go fishing with bait and no hook, you're not going to get any fish. You may get some fat, happy fish that get away, but if you want to be effective, you use the bait to disguise the hook. When the fish come around, you pull the hook in.
Well, that doesn't sound like you're literally trying to trick people or anything. You know, when I argue my points, all I do is try to be correct, like a moron.
The bait is apologetical argument. You use different baits for different people, or different fish. The hook is God's law. That is the 10 Commandments.
That's right, because everybody knows when you bring out those commandments that they've violated them, that they've broken them, and that they're going to need God's forgiveness.
No, they won't. They won't care because that's your thing. I told you, Ray and Burke just can't comprehend that anyone doesn't believe the things that they do. They seem to think it's inherent to a person. I gotta wonder how they square that with vastly different religions like Buddhism or Islam. Look, I know you say that you want to reach nirvana and all that gibberish, but you know that the Bible is really true, right? Like, you can recite the 10 Commandments by heart and stuff, yeah? Like, is that what they actually think? Or did God make a bunch of people specifically to do religion wrong? It's completely baffling.
On the day of judgment. And it's a good strong hook that we should never fail to use when we're sharing our faith.
So if you want to look into this teaching further, we have a book that can be helpful to you. It's called God Doesn't Believe in Atheists.
Well, then God is an idiot. And of course you have a book to sell. It wouldn't be true stupid without something to sell.
Proof the atheist doesn't exist.
Why?
And the Evidence Bible, very comprehensive Bible, which has been commended by Josh McDowell, Franklin Graham, and D. James Kennedy. And also that tract.
There's a tract called the Atheist Test, and it's wonderful. It takes an atheist through the test to show him that he's really an agnostic.
OMG, want. And it's not totally to make fun of it or anything like that.
And then presents the message of salvation to him. Also, to really educate yourself in the principles of sharing your faith the way Jesus did, visit our website, www.wayofthemaster.com.
Oh, thank non-existent Christ. That's it. How many hours of my life have I put into this one freaking video series? Too many. So, if they did a conclusion, we should too. What did we learn? Nothing. We already knew that Kirk and Ray were a pair of chattering gibbons. We already guessed that they had horrible argumentation and that doing this video was a waste of your time and mine. So, you want to do another one? Why, hello there, you terrible people. The best kind of people. It's me, Sir Sick. Could you not tell? I just wanted to remind you all to subscribe, push the bell icon, and to check out my various social media things for other equally pointless content. And more importantly, to make sure that you know when a video comes out. Recently, it seems YouTube doesn't want you to know because I am so handsome, famous, and good at the sex, and they are jealous, obviously. It really helps me out if you do, and apparently if you are notification belled up, they have reset it or something, so check them settings to make sure you're getting what you're supposed to. Hopefully we can get my numbers back up, because my self-worth is directly related to how many internet people show up on my videos. I'm sure that's completely healthy, right? Also, don't forget to panic buy Sick Brand merch, and don't forget to panic crowd support the channel. Thanks very much.